let's turn to my other focus tonight, the budget. Now, a lot of the focus in the union budget this year was on jobs and employment creation. But the budget was silent on a key demand that many farmers, particularly the opposition, also has made, a legally mandated minimum support price for their crops. There was no big bang announcement, in fact, for the agriculture sector. While the direct cash transfer scheme stays, the budget saw some cuts in fertilizer subsidy. On Wednesday, a delegation of farmer leaders from 6 states met the leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi, in Parliament to raise their demands, especially on MSP. Does the budget have enough for the farmers? What else could the budget have done? Joining me now, very special guest, one of the country's leading agriculture economists. He's been chairman at the Agriculture Research Center. I appreciate you joining us. Ashok Gulati, always good to see you. The budget, as you see it, or as I see it, doesn't seem to have put the focus really on agriculture. A lot of the talk, at least, was on macroeconomic stability, jobs, employment. How do you see it? Did agriculture lose out in a way in terms of priorities, sir, in Nirmala Sitharaman's budget this time?
Well, I would say yes, the focus was on growth and employment and also stabilizing inflation and containing fiscal deficit. So these are the macro things, and perhaps they have leaned more towards jobs. Agriculture cannot create more jobs. People have to be taken out of agriculture because 45.8% of the workforce is engaged in agriculture, with agriculture share to GDP only 18%. Actually, we should not have more than 30% of the workforce right now in agriculture. Where the jobs can be created in the rural areas or urban areas, I think the big point is the announcement of the PM Gramin Awas Yojana, 2 crore 20 million houses to be constructed in the rural areas and 1 million in the urban areas. So that creates a permanent structure and gives employment people in the rural areas. The Gramin Sadak Yojana also, which has been listed and quite a good allocation has been made. I think that also will create jobs in the rural areas. People have to get jobs in the rural areas, but off the farm. Either you build the value chains of the commodities or you create infrastructure. I think focus has been more on creating infrastructure.
I read a piece, Dr. Gulati, recently where you said the focus should have been on agriculture R&D, on research and development, and that could actually prepare the farm and the rural sector to push in for more investments in these critical areas. Do you think the government is missing the plot, that it doesn't see agriculture in terms of R&D, and the entire political class seems to focus the entire agriculture budget debate at the moment around minimum support price? Ki MSP mila ki nahi?
That's right. If you look at what is the biggest challenge right now agriculture is facing, it is the extreme weather events, climate change. And because of that, either we have heat waves or when we have rains, it pours like cats and dogs. There are floods at a number of places. So you have to raise the productivity and also create your agriculture more climate resilient and climate smart agriculture. The farming practices have to change. And that means it will come through either the seeds, which are climate resilient, they can bear heat waves and so on and so forth, or changing the practices, especially with respect to water utilization. I think that's where ICAR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, their allocation is more or less flat. In fact, in real terms, it has gone down. So that is a bit of disappointment, although when she opened up that there are 9 priority areas on which she is focusing, the first in the list was raising agriculture productivity and creating climate resilience in agriculture. But how do you create that? And the understanding that we have is they should have invested much, much more in agriculture research, extension, and water management, rather than in massive subsidies they are giving either on fertilizers or food.
You will also recall Prime Minister Modi a few years ago assured a doubling of farm incomes by 2022. That never happened. Is the way to increase, is the challenge still, how do you increase farm incomes? The opposition wants a legal guarantee of MSP. Is that the way, or as you said, investment in R&D and diversification? Crop diversification is the only way to increase farmer income.
Yes, the best way to increase farmers' income, number one, raise their productivity. And that means investing more in irrigation and better farm management practices. So there's a lot of extension work to be done to produce more with less of resources. That is less of water and not damaging your soils and not creating greenhouse gas emissions. That's one way. But even that has limitations given the cropping structure that we have. Mm-hmm. The MSP business has led to massive accumulation of stocks of rice, for example. Today, FCI is sitting on 3.5 times the rice stocks than the buffer stock norm. That is huge inefficiency in the system. So I would say if you want to give MSP, especially in Punjab, Haryana region, there should be a package that all the subsidies that rice gets through power, through canal irrigation and through fertilizers, those should be also given in per hectare basis to pulses and oilseeds because they don't consume that much of water or fertilizer. So those subsidies, we worked it out for Punjab. 39,000 rupees per hectare is the subsidy on rice. Mm-hmm. If you give that much money to pulses or at least 35,000 rupees to pulses, then farmers may be able to switch to more sustainable crops. But the real income, it's not the MSP business you keep on raising and go totally out of line with the international price markets, price scenario. It is breeding inefficiency. It is the high value agriculture. When you switch from basic cereals, wheat or rice, or even from oilseeds and pulses to high value agriculture, whether it is poultry, whether it is fishery, whether it is fruits and vegetables, whether it is dairy, that can raise your incomes much more. I have been in the fields of Punjab very recently, and I have seen farmers making 10 lakhs rupees per acre through protected cultivation or even exotic fruits like dragon fruit in Punjab they are growing, and there is no MSP business on that front. So we have to graduate from basic staples, which we are comfortable, especially in rice, to more of high value agriculture, which requires much more working capital. It requires building of efficient value chains so that directly if they have excess, they can be exported from Punjab to, let's say, the Gulf countries. It just airlift them, earmark Amritsar, for example, as an export zone for agricultural products. So you need to invest in the basic infrastructure for value chains of high value agriculture, the way we did for milk. But fruits and vegetables and others are waiting for it.
You made an interesting point about dragon fruit, the crop diversification, which is critical. But the question therefore is, should the government of Narendra Modi now try to in some way revive the farm reforms? Remember 4 years ago, they tried to push them through, couldn't build a consensus, didn't work. Is it time to revisit it and find a way in which consensus can be built, at least around some of those reforms, which will open up agriculture and enhance agriculture productivity?
The precondition of bringing back the reforms is earning the trust of the states as well as the farmers. And for that, I would suggest, and I have written also about this, that the center should create 2 councils, center-state mix on the lines of GST council, one with the ministers, agriculture ministers of different states, but one more for the farmers, 2 farmers from each state, for example, one owner cultivator, one tenant cultivator. And they should be brought on the table, and the center needs to listen to them. I think they can be, they want market risk to be minimized and therefore augmenting their incomes. So that demand, I am with them. But MSP is not the route to get that. There are many other ways, better ways to do it. Making it legal will complicate the matters even more. If you want to make, let's say, pulses and oilseeds you are importing, there is a big deficit. MSP was a tool devised in 1960s when we were extremely short of wheat and rice. So if you're short of pulses and oilseeds, you can say anybody switching from paddy, we will give this incentive of 35,000 rupees center state to be equally divided. But also we will make sure that pulses when you grow, we will buy at minimum support price. So that will, in a way, substitute your import bill and reduce that. So I think MSP can be made more effective without making it legal.
Okay. Let me in conclusion therefore ask you, do you see the Union Budget 2024 as a missed opportunity yet again for agriculture? No real agriculture reforms. The next budget is 6 months from now. Should agriculture now become the focus area with some innovative reforms?
I would say yes and no, because this type of a thing requires a good preparation. Bigger, bolder reforms, streamlining food and fertilizer subsidies. The two together almost touching about 4 lakh crores in the last budget. This budget, it's a little less, but 3.7 lakh crores. So that 3.7 lakh crores I can write on the wall. If you do it nicely and streamline it, you can save 70,000 crores. But you have to be bold and you have to prepare well and communicate better. It requires a 6 months dedicated effort to lay down the grounds for that type of reforms. And the beginning, as I said, is earning the trust of the states and of the farmers. And that can be done through creating these agri-councils.
Okay, let's leave it there, Professor Gulati. As always, whenever one speaks to you, you get a sense of really what are the critical issues that government should address. Sadly, most governments seem reluctant to push ahead now with agriculture reform, certainly not seen in Budget 2024. Appreciate you joining us, Professor Gulati. Diversification. Go and plant some dragon fruit.